weekend. We're jumping in here in game 2. Logan Nettles has picked up the victory in the first game. So let's have a look, see what is going on this battlefield, Cedric.
Imagine we're walking into a mess, as we oftentimes are when we're joining a game in progress. And to my sheer delight, that's what I see. I see a Core Spirit Dancer, a Cerulean Drake with a cartouche on it, the 1-1 that the cartouche made, and looks like a Lurrus hanging out. Well, pardon me. Lurrus was hanging out.
It was hanging out.
Fire Prophecy took care of that. You see a 3-3 Shark there for Logan, along with a 1-1 from the Dwarven Mine. Mystic's Mastery, Memory Lapse in hand. Might be going on top of the deck now, though, because here is a Brainstorm.
Pretty decent Brainstorm, finding a Shark Typhoon there, a couple of lands as well, so likely going to see those lands get sent back to the top of the deck there. Antonio Del Leon's got a bit of an uphill battle, though, with just a Spell Pierce and a Core Spirit Dancer in hand. No enchantments to trigger that Core Spirit Dancer to draw some extra cards. So that must be quite frustrating for him indeed.
No argument here, that's for sure. Let's see what the draw is.
The turn passes back, and it is a Plains off the top. That's not what he wants. Need an enchantment here to get this Core Spirit Dancer working. So just the Cerulean Drake holding down the fort here. We saw yesterday just how impactful this card is against the powerful threats in this Jeskai Turns deck, holding off that Velamarcus Lorehold of Kai Buddha as long as it could, until Kai Buddha was just like, you know what, I'm just going to make a bunch of sharks. Deal with those.
And take a million turns as well.
Yeah.
We might see another Core Spirit Dancer show up here. What's kind of interesting is that with the Core Spirit Dancer in hand, and potentially 2 of those being placed into the battlefield, the tough spot here is that if Antonio is able to draw just any aura, he could just chain off like crazy. He's got so many lands.
Yep.
He could just go absolutely nuts. The problem is that he just simply has not found one yet. So that's a bit of the issue. And this Spell Pierce that he's got in his hand, that is kind of slowly but surely working itself out of the equation as we get deeper in the game. Spell Pierce gets worse and worse, as we all know. So in a perfect world, if you're Del Leon, you don't want the game to get this late. You want your Spell Pierce to be a hard counter. You don't want things to look like this, but it looks like Nettles has worked himself into a pretty unique situation here.
Oh, again, as good as Good Boy is, Selfless Savior is not the draw. So he'll join the battlefield to protect one of these important creatures. So unfortunately, he won't be drawing any cards. And yeah, at this point of the game, you know, the Auras deck is ideally, you know, shuffling their deck for the next game. They want to be one and done with this list. It has the potential to have incredibly explosive turns. So what we're going to see here is just the Core Spirit Dancer join the fray and hope like heck that Antonio can find an enchantment off the top.
Yeah, the goal is to draw an Aura Spell. You draw an Aura Spell, you can chain off into multiple Aura Spells and get that snowball going and maybe just win the game in one turn. The scary thing here is that you're playing against a deck that has Memory Lapse. So this Core Spirit Dancer, it's a pretty juicy target for a Memory Lapse, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you're casting a Core Spirit Dancer now, it doesn't mean that Antonio doesn't have an Aura. But given the way that this game has played, I think if you're Logan, you're probably thinking, I don't know, probably just drew a couple of creatures and some lands and maybe some reactive cards and doesn't have an Aura. So I could see an argument for Memory Lapsing that, but we're not going to see it there from Nettles.
Yeah, so going to hold on to that counterspell for the time being. Oh, we see a big old shark on the end step here. My gut instinct says yes. I'd love to know what's in the graveyard there to see what Mystic's Mastery could potentially hit next turn.
Yeah, what are we overloading? If we're overloading anything, would we even attempt to go for the overload on Mystic's Mastery? You know, I talked about Spell Pierce kind of overstaying its welcome this game and not really being terribly effective. Countering an overloaded Mystic's Mastery is a way for Spell Pierce to actually be good again.
It might get its chance here if Logan Nettles lets his guard down and goes for the big overloaded spell of Mystic's Mastery. But I'm still not 100% sure what's in the graveyard there. I think he's taking a look now just to see what the targets are.
Yeah, if we have the opportunity to take a look at what Logan's looking at, that would be awesome. We'll see if we have that possibility. But his hand, at the very least right now, Mastery, Scorching Dragonfire, Lapse in a Mountain, it's a pretty good hand, all things considered.
Yeah, Scorching Dragonfire won't be able to kill one of the Core Spirit Dancers, courtesy of the Selfless Savior, being able to jump in the way of the big old ball of fire. Very dramatic. I hope they give him a hero's burial, if that does come to it.
I am curious about the deck selection here for Del Moral Leon. Not in so far as Auras is a good or bad deck. I think positioning is one thing, and he's obviously having a fantastic tournament. But Del Moral Leon is someone who won Pro Tour Fate Reforged back in February 2015 with Blue Red Splinter Twin. It was a Splinter Twin situation, and he doesn't want to play Steam Vents in this tournament. He's the Steam Vents guy.
You know what, going against the curve. I can appreciate that, so. Let's see what the follow-up here is for Logan. Is he going to pull the trigger on a Mythic's Mastery now, or is he going to play it patient and see what Antonio has up his sleeve? I mean, just the fact that he hasn't played any other auras right now has got to be very telling to Logan in that there's not much going on in his hand right now.
Yep. I mean, if you're thinking about it from Logan's position, the thing you're thinking of is he just has reactive permission. He has some number of counter spells in his hand. That's what I'd be thinking right now if I was Logan. Now, how many? I don't know. At least one, maybe two. But I'd imagine if I'm Logan, I'm just thinking he's got at least one counter spell. I just can't see how he doesn't.
Going for the Mythic's Mastery, not the Overload, though. Just going for Prismari Command. So we'll be able to fire that off. Let's see what he picks. 2 damage and 2 cards. So I'm going to try and pick off one of these core Spirit Dancers and force the issue here for the Selfless Savior. Or are we just going to go for the puppy? Okay.
Poor dog.
Poor dog, indeed. How could you?
It's real rude.
In response, though, the Selfless Savior will sacrifice itself to protect one of the Spirit Dancers, at least. And we're going to get a couple cards here off the top for Logan in Fry and a Katria Triome. So finding a lot of gas here to keep him going.
Yeah, what card do you want to discard? Looks like just the 2 lands. So Fry, Dragonfire, Lapse Up. It's not bad. Aura!
All right, draw step, let's go. Scorching Dragonfire. Gonna take care of one of these core Spirit Dancers, unfortunately. So even if there is an aura on the top, only gonna get 1 card off of the remaining Spirit Dancer, but it might just be enough.
Yeah,
but...
no, I mean, that Spirit Dancer is just gonna die. I really like Logan's sequencing here of in your upkeep before you draw, I'm gonna blow up both your Spirit Dancers, and now if it's beautiful sequencing. Now, drawing a land stinks, obviously, but the sequencing there is so nice because Logan goes, I'm going to play my Scorching Dragonfire, I can pay for a Spell Pierce. And so Antonio's like, okay, fine. That's fine. I'm not going to Spell Pierce you. And then he plays an uncounterable spell, which means, okay, you're still stuck with this horrible Spell Pierce. So now both your Spirit Dancers are dead. And that means, I mean, what's the avenue to come back now if you're Del Moral Leon? Your draw has been absolutely decimated here by Nettles.
Yeah, I mean, this deck, you could see the concession here. There's just no way to come back from that situation, unfortunately, for Antonio. The draw engine in the deck are the core Spirit Dancers and SRAM. So if you don't have those on the battlefield, if you're not getting your enchantments and your auras, you're going to have such a bad time against these decks with so much removal in their main deck configuration, or even off the sideboard. It's just such an impossible situation.